Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome back to video 2 of Motor Vehicle Motions. In this video, we're going to look at controlling the forces at play inside your automobile. Now, that's really important because when you're on, say, like a train that's on a set track, the track dictates the direction you will go, and the engineer or the person who is controlling the train basically says start, stop, and accelerate. Well, when you're driving a vehicle or when you're in a vehicle, the driver does all of that and has loose guidelines as established by a roadway. So let's go ahead and start this video off by looking at one of my two favorite hosts in the YouTube world who like to look at cars in a unique perspective. Check this out.
Yes, Corvette! Get in! He wanted me to come to the dark side!
Come on, catching him up.
Oh, he's gaining! He's gaining!
Oh God, that Corvette is so fast!
But I took it!
No, the brake. No, come on, stop. The brakes are so horrible.
In this video, we saw, well, starting. Applied engine force was greater than the balanced force, or the force when the vehicle was, well, stopped. And it was greater than the friction. Did you also notice how the tires wanted to spin a little bit faster because it had to propel the weight of the vehicle, and you saw some gravel come out of those tires or come from underneath those tires? Then you had stopping at the end of the video. Brakes applied friction to oppose the forward force and the opposing momentum. And of course, we had momentum. It's the object's relation to its mass and velocity, right? In its stopping position, the car wanted to stay at rest. And as it accelerated, it was wanting to, well, either decelerate or keep the momentum going. In fact, when they switched to using brakes, the momentum would have kept the car moving forward had the brakes not been applied. And of course, you have the word acceleration, which is the positive change in velocity as a result of the increase of the balanced force. Obviously, the more force you have, the faster it's going to accelerate. And of course, you had overall velocity, the speed of an object in relation to its direction. Now, in that video, you saw two extremes of changing velocity, constant acceleration, and then constant stopping until, or constant deceleration until it made a complete stop.
Well, let's take a look. All right, let's take a look at the fastest lap in the Dark Horse, which obviously was done at the beginning of the day before we corded those Pirellis. Now, this is a beast that needs to be wrestled with. There's nothing delicate about the way you have to drive it, but if you play by its rules, it's very, very quick around a track, especially with those crazy sticky track tires. Speaking of which, they added just enough heft to the steering that I felt a bit more confident on the front end compared to the GT. But sadly, the steering and chassis communication in this is still a far cry from any Camaro. However, the MagneRide is fantastic, and all of those track-specific chassis modifications paid off, because this Dark Horse was absolutely glued to our track. This should be a quick lap time. Okay,
Muscle day!
look what we brought.
Oh, yeah.
It's a Mach 1.
They brought a Mark 1.
I did a lap time in that.
You did do a lap time.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the lap times are.
He has, as usual, he has no idea. So before I tell you this lap time, should I just kind of walk you through the Mach 1? Because it was interesting.
So why has this not got a lap time before?
Well, because Ford wouldn't let us. They wouldn't let us do a lap time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
by the very kind graces of an owner, we have a Mach 1 here years later to give you a lap time. Now, the Mach 1, this is actually a genuinely fantastic track car.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Tires are super sticky. It's on Cup 2s, right? It feels very, very confident in the corners. There's this kind of settledness to it in high-speed corners that I really enjoy. And the steering, honestly, I don't find to be worse than the new one at all.
Even with all their new
With all the new
upgrades
and everything,
yeah.
I can see how it's a little bit gooier, but the weight is really confident, and it's not nearly as good as a Camaro, but I got just enough feedback that I was able to figure out what the front tires are doing. And honestly, it's so fast through the corners. It really, really is.
Well, this is a 21, and they had the 480 horsepower.
Yes.
It was a year later they lost 10 horsepower.
That's right.
So this is the best Mark 1.
This is the best Mach 1.
All right, Dark Horse. This
Yeah.
is the successor to the Mark 1.
Well, let's do this lap time first.
Okay.
We'll go in order chronologically.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
So,
Looking at the leaderboard.
you're looking at leaderboard. That did a 1.
Hang on. So it should be ahead of the PP2 GT
Yes.
of this gen.
Yes.
So my guess is 1:12:20.
1:11:31.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's right up there with the SS1 LE.
Yep. It's a very genuinely, fantastically great around the track car. It's not as fun or engaging as an SS1 LE. It doesn't communicate nearly as much, but it is, I think, the perfect version, other than the GT350, of a naturally aspirated S550 chassis. Did that make
High
sense?
praise. High
Okay.
praise. That's a big time.
That's a great time, and it is faster than the GT500. But the GT500 that we drove did not have the carbon fiber track pack.
Yeah, it didn't have the Cup 2s.
It didn't have Cup 2s,
Right.
and Cup 2s, well, sticky tires in general, are everything, as you are about to
Dark horse.
discover when we look at these, which has a Trofeo RS, which is the equivalent of what would be a Cup 2R.
Yes.
That was a lot of boring tire talk, but unfortunately, it matters, basically. So, the Dark Horse.
The Dark Horse. So the preface to this is that the GT didn't disappoint us, the new one, but it wasn't huge. It was slower than the PP2.
No, it didn't disappoint us, but it did disappoint us.
It was basically just a PP1.
Yes,
And it was just grouped into a performance pack.
It just
So
wasn't-
that was
it
in the
wasn't quick enough.
114s.
No.
Tell me it's at least a second quicker. Is it Mark 1 level?
Okay, so the Mach 1...
Find out next week.
The Mach 1 did a what?
Find out.
No,
you find out
Next
now.
time on Dragon Ball Z.
1:11:30.
This did a 1:10.
Whoa, no!
22.
I did not. I thought you were going to come at me with like a 1:13. It's a piece of crap.
No,
That's
properly
That's
fast.
in line with the M2 CS.
Yes, yes.
Now, as demonstrated in that video clip, we saw that steering changes the direction of a vehicle. Remember, an object in motion wants to stay in motion unless acted upon by another force, and momentum is the tendency an object has to continue its previous direction. So, with an automobile, direction is usually guided by the front wheels, okay? So if the wheels are pointed straight, it's going to want to go straight. If you turn the wheels, guess what's going to happen? Just like on a roller coaster, it's going to want to follow its track as dictated or as directed by the front wheels, okay? So with that in mind, you turn the car so that the wheels are going to the right, you're going to go right. You turn the car with the wheels going to the left, it's going to go left. In the event that you're on a wet road and your vehicle needs to come to a complete stop, and say the wheels lock up on you, in other words, they all don't spin, guess what direction your car is going to want to go? Not right, not left, but continue with whatever forward motion it was moving in. Okay? So you have velocity and speed. Believe it or not, these are two different things. All right. Velocity is the speed of an object in relation to its direction. Okay, so if it's going in a certain way, that's its velocity. Speed defines simply the rate at which an object is changing its position. So think of it like this. If you're in a vehicle, all right, and that vehicle is traveling at a rate of 20 meters per second, all right, you are traveling at 20 meters per second. However, if you are in a vehicle and that vehicle happens to be traveling east, you are traveling east at 20 miles per second. You are not traveling south. You are not traveling north. You are traveling east and east only. Now, if you are slightly drifting to the south, right, you might be going to at east at about 20 miles per hour, right, in your overall speed, but your velocity south might only be, say, 1 mile per hour if you're at a slight drift or slightly south of due east. I hope that makes sense. Now, we can identify that on our graphs. Again, constant velocity is, well, being inside that zone where we're heading east and we're not traveling southward, if you will, right? Your direction can be measured, again, with velocity in meters per second over time. Kind of like the whole speed thing, okay? And it looks very similar here. Again, when you're increasing your velocity, in other words, when you are making your change, you are making your change at meters per second, right? This is your velocity and this is your time, and you are increasing or accelerating in your velocity. And then, of course, you have decreasing velocity. In other words, you are slowing down. All right. So the same concepts as speed, but velocity has more to do with direction than it does with overall speed. All right. Now, when you're in a vehicle, that direction is dictated by the direction of, well, the tires, if everything is all working well, and the wheels, if you will, tires and wheels, all right? When you change your steering, you shift the direction. Speed may remain the same. In other words, if this vehicle is traveling at, say, 55 miles an hour, and you turn that steering wheel to the left and you turn those tires, your new direction will constantly change until you straighten them back up and you'll decide on a new direction. So let's just say you were traveling north at 55 miles per hour. You turned them at a 45-degree angle. You might be then traveling north at half the speed you are traveling to the west, but your overall speed remains the same. Your velocity changes, okay? I hope that makes sense. Now, with regards to steering, here's something that's a little bit more advanced, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about oversteer and understeer. This is more or less for racing and performance driving, and something that is just kind of cool to consider, all right? Oversteer is what happens when your back wheels kind of kick out and kind of want to overtake or oversteer the front wheels. Understeer is when your front wheels might have grip, but you're not making the turn as you intended. Or if you're on, say, like a slick road and you turn your wheel and the car wants to keep on moving forward, and that motion wants to keep on moving forward because it's propelled in that direction, right? Now, if you're in neutral steering, you are just kind of doing whatever, the car is doing whatever you tell the steering wheel to say or to do, all right? So, there's some other terms in here like yaw and lateral acceleration and curvature, but we're not going to look at all that in terms of angle. I just wanted you guys to be familiar with oversteer. Again, think of that like being in a drift, okay? And then understeer, where if like you're in a big truck and you want to make a sharp angle and that truck kind of wants to keep on moving forward, even though you got the wheels turned, it doesn't want to quite make that move. That is understeer. Alrighty, y'all. So as a preview of what we will be looking at next, here you go. We'll be looking at transforming energy, which is very important for the way that engines operate.